I'm still waiting on the scrap guy to come get the Jetta, so I don't really want to go anywhere. He's supposed to call me first, so I may run down to the gas station and get some fresh fuel for this. I haven't really decided yet, because I mean, it does run on the old fuel, but that may be part of why it's running so poorly. Like, I had to back down the driveway and start on flat ground because it was stalling, trying to get up this hill, and just slipping the snot out of the clutch. So there's a couple of things I want to look at. Mainly clean the carb again, just get in there and see. And I don't know how much fuel's in there. I'll have to get a flashlight and see. Okay, so I looked on the old interwebs, and I was completely wrong. So here, like, there's a shift lever, right? So, you know, reverse 1, 2. Here's reverse. There's 1, 2, 3, and then actually this is the overdrive, right? Which makes sense because you're right. It's right next to you. So all the way down is normal, and then there's a neutral, and there's your longer gear. So. Oh. Be careful there, we don't roll down the drive until I put blocks down. So there's normal, there's neutral. So this had 3 positions. I thought it was the transfer case high and low, but on the diagram our front axle is actually next. So there's front axle engaged, there's disengaged, and then our transfer case all the way down we're in high, which is fine. So now that we have our controls sorted out properly, you know, and there's our low, our normal gearing, and then our long gearing is up. That should go better. So just a little clarification, you know, learning curve for me because I've never even been in one of these before. So yeah, we'll move on to engine stuff next. Now I took the carb off, and first thing I'm noticing is that really the gas doesn't smell that great. So I think we're going to want to get fresh fuel for sure. So this may be an unnecessary adventure, but I haven't touched it in so long that I think it is probably worth going through and making sure everything on the inside's set right. Yeah, popping the top off of the bowl and getting the things out. It looks like there's some crusties down in there just kind of hanging out. I'll grab a pick and poke them. Alright, so yeah, so I can scrape that stuff up and it starts floating around. So we could have little bits of things in the passages kind of screwing this stuff. So it'll be worth cleaning this out, and it may be that we clean it out and then we're going to run okay on that old nasty fuel. Or at least okay enough to get to the gas station and top off with fresh stuff. So we can then, it'll mix itself in and we'll be good to go instead of having to drain all of it. But we're definitely going to want to get this apart and make sure that anything that's separated from the fuel over the years gets pushed out of it, and then in pretty short order we're going to want to get a fuel filter. All torn apart. I got a few things in here, so like all those jets go on the top. There's the little squirter for the Excel, but really everything else, not too worried about it because you can't mix them up, right? They only go in one spot. And then you got like this little guy with a screen and a check valve. I think that's for the Excel pump, so it doesn't push back into the tank. Stuff with crusties in it that we'll have to clean out. So let's go through and clean everything up and put it all back together, and then see how it runs. I'm not sure it'll make a huge difference. Well, it started a little nicer with the carb clean, but here's your telltale, right? So like these two, right, almost shuts off. This guy, same thing. And these two, doesn't even care. Those aren't even firing. So we're running on 2 cylinders. That's why it's so sluggish and seems like it's running good. So you can hear that, right? Spark, 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 spark. But it's not combusting. Spark, 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 spark. Okay, so I switched the plugs, and the front 2 cylinders 1 and 2 are still the only 2 that fire. So I just went ahead and switched lines of 2 and 3 and see if that moves it. It could be bad cables. If it's not bad cables, we're gonna have to look into getting keys so that we can start it. Okay. Yeah, so it's not the cables, right? Switch the cable, and that one still matters. So, yeah, back 2 cylinders are not happy. I think we're probably going to have to adjust the valve. That's the only thing I would guess that would do this at this point. I guess I can check the pressure and I'd have to dig the gauge out. I'm not even sure what it is. Cylinder 2 looks about 135. Okay, now this tester should have a check valve in it, so let's crank it some. All the plugs are out, so we don't have anything to worry about. If these arc a bit, doesn't really matter. So, don't need that. That's for sure. Let's see. Okay. So, cylinder number 1. Oh, I touched the button. It looked like it was around 140, but let's hit that again. Yeah. Yeah, 140, right about. So we'll get the others and see where she's at. Yeah, cylinder 3 was 0, so let's see about 4. No, so 4 has compression, about 125. Cylinder 3 had nothing though, so wonder why 4 wasn't sparking away or making any power, that is. Let me check 3 one more time. Yeah, nothing. So, I wonder, do these cams ever snap in half? Right? Is that a thing? Because what we could have is that cylinder 4 has the valves closed, that's why it made compression, and in this one they're just stuck open all the time, and that's why it doesn't. That would suck. But if these are non-interference motors, to find out if they are, then you just put a cam in it, unless all the journals are fucked up. So, it's gonna get interesting, because I don't remember it running like when we drove it around his neighborhood, it didn't have trouble on hills, it didn't have any other kind of weird issues. So I just can't imagine for the life of me how something catastrophic like that would happen in between me fixing it for him and them selling it to me. And I know for a fact they're not the type of people that would sell me something that completely broke. Look at all that. Look at all that fuel dripping onto that fucking fuel, leaking out of the gaskets and stuff on that carb. I wonder from where. Oh, it looks like out of this guy just seeping through the gaskets. So I'll have to get some new gaskets for that thing. That's kind of dangerous. But in the meantime, I gotta figure out why it doesn't make compression. And I think pulling the valve cover off will be the solution to that. Doesn't have much. It's just 2 bolts that hold it on, so we should be able to at least get in there pretty quick and take a peek, see what's happening. Yeah, so those must be the intake valves, and then the exhaust valves are hidden away behind that plate or something like that. I'll have to look it up, but I remember I think you have to remove this exhaust manifold, which sucks, and then you have to reach through the side. It's not really that fun of a job. But just for kicks, to make sure our cam is still in one piece, we're going to give it a quick crank and just see if these move, right? That'll be step 1. Oop, I left the ignition on. I'm a bad person. And actually, I think I don't need the ignition on to crank it. So let's make our pocket again. So we'll just reach through here. Hopefully it doesn't spray too much oil everywhere. You can see the front and rear are working. So the cam's not broken, that's good. But we definitely don't have any compression on 3. We hope it's not from a burnt exhaust valve. You hope it just needs adjustment. But, yeah, let's see what it takes. My plan was to drive this to my buddy Steve's tomorrow. That's clearly not going to happen. Okay, so word around town is that you can adjust the exhaust valves by just taking off this cover. And I'm thinking that means that this bolt and probably this are what holds it on. Because they said 2 bolts, and I don't see bolts anywhere else for it. I do wonder, this thing's kind of touches it, and maybe it doesn't look original to me. So here we go, plates off. You can see the exhaust valves in there. So, whoa. Look at number 3. Hold on a second. I need a flashlight. That might be just horribly obvious. Okay, so it might be hard to see. Well, it'll probably be easier to see because I can get the camera down in there. But look at that gap. Even from here I can see that's probably way too big. Or I'm just seeing the reflection wrong. So either way, it's certainly possible to... Oh, what's that? What the fuck is that? Is it supposed to be there? That looks like it's supposed to... Oh yeah, there's a little gear on it. Oh, that's the gear that goes to the distributor. Right there, that thing. I saw it was kind of shinier than everything else. I got a little worried. So, alright, so we're going to go... there's a couple really good guides on the old interwebs that basically just do one at a time, right? I'll get my 1 3/8. I'll jam it through this hole, and you'll turn it, and you say, like, if we'll start with the intake because they're easy to get to, right? It'll be motivating and fun. But essentially, you'll rotate the engine until one of these is all the way up, right? I think by up they mean this side, and then its opposing cylinder will be, you know, loose enough. So like right now this one's loose, but is it far enough loose? We don't know. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do it that way. Hopefully I can show one so people see what I mean. Oh, there's a ton of videos out there, so I'll just give one quick example and then we'll move on. Okay, so wrench is in place. We're gonna watch for number 4 on the back to, and they say fully up. What they mean is that it compress the valve all the way, so we can just kind of watch it. We know that one's open right now. You should see it. It's pushing the valve down. I don't know how far it goes. Yeah, right there it stopped moving, so that's all the way up. So now cylinder 1 should be nice and loosey-goosey, which it is. And so we're going to adjust the gap over here, right? By opening up this lock nut that's a 1/2 inch, and your screwdriver does it. They're really similar in all motors. If you're already this deep, you probably know how to adjust valves anyway, so I won't bore you with the details. I will, however, after doing all the intake valves, I'll come back and show one of the exhaust ones being done. Okay, so intake's done. 2 and 4 were barely tight. You could almost get the gauges through, so a minor adjustment on them. So we'll do the same thing on the exhaust, using 1 and 4 are opposing and 2 and 3 are opposing. So what I need to do is crank on that thing and watch in here, and so what this one does is it pushes up, right, and the valve sits upside down. There's a little path to go to the exhaust. So we'll watch number 4. When number 4 is pushed all the way up, we'll come and check our clearance on 1. What I'm guessing is 1 and 2 will be fine, and 3 and 4 will be off. Well, 4 might be okay because it had compression, which I thought was odd. So maybe something was sticking, and when I revved the engine way up, it unsticked some. But okay, so here's cylinder 4. I couldn't get the gauge in because it's a little too tight. So you can see the bottom of the tappet has slots for 2 sides. And then this one, we're going to turn it right. Well, I'm going to tighten it into itself just a little bit, and then we'll see if the gauge goes in. 1 and 2. 2 was good. 1 was really close. I had to loosen it a tiny bit. They're still not getting in there, so we'll have to loosen that one up more. Okay, so right there, that's cylinder 3's exhaust valve. Now what you're going to see happen is that when I turn the engine and the tappet drops, the valve's not going to drop with it. So it's stuck up. Hopefully there's not something like stuck underneath it, like a broken piece of itself. Hopefully it's just kind of like hanging out, because it would surprise me if that's bent, right? Because it doesn't go anywhere near the piston. Only intake valves are above the pistons. These are off to the side in their own passage. That's why it's called an F head. It looks like an F, I bet. So let me turn it over so you can see, and once we know that tappet's all the way down, maybe all we need to do is tap on it with like a hammer or something to free it up. right there. So now 2's all the way up, 3's all the way down, and there's just a nasty looking gap, right? It should be down. So that valve's for sure stuck. Find something to do about that. Okay, so I had a second idea, which was to loosen up that, you know, that setting nut a little bit, just so that it, hopefully enough that it makes contact now, and then we can just rotate the motor over a couple times, and it'll maybe use the spring to free itself up. I'm unsure, so give it a try. Now, if this goes up and doesn't move it, we know we need to do it anymore. But not very good. I could feel it, that was really stiff. Yeah, so we probably need more on that if we do it that way. Alright, stick something on it. So that worked. You can see it now. It's all the way down like it should be, and it's probably, we can't get a feeler gauge in there at all, so we'll loosen it up a bunch, get a gauge in there, set the lash, get everything reassembled, start this thing up, and then see how many cylinders it's running on now. So thinking back, I've rubbed the engine up quite a bit just for funsies, and when I let it rev back down I heard some clacking. So I wonder if both of these were stuck and 4 got freed up while I revved the engine up, and 3 didn't. So I haven't put the plugs back in since then, so it's possible that we will fire well on all 4 once I put this back together. Sun's starting to go down, so it would be nice to wrap this up tonight, and realistically there's not a lot of bolts, right? 2 for that plate, 2 for the top one. I got one of it reattaches the lines, plugs back in. It's really quick and easy to work on these things. Okay, this will be our moment of truth here. We're all back together. It's still daylight, and it really is quick to take stuff on and off of this. And hopefully it sounds drastically different than when it ran before and we were naive and thought it was okay. I have kind of a track record of running engines on not all of their cylinders and thinking things are fine. When I had my VR6 that we turboed, it was running on 4 cylinders, and we're like, holy crap, this car's fast. And then we got the other 6 cylinders to fire while we were tuning it, and that thing just went like stink. But let's see, choke it. Yeah, okay, doke. That's a lot smoother. So, same thing, let's see. Yeah, that one's working. That one's still working. Fingers crossed. Doesn't seem to care. Oh. Look at that. We're arcing out of the cap. That may have been just because I unplugged it and I needed somewhere to go. That one's working. So I wonder if 3's stuck again. I bet it did. So that 3's sticking. Right now we have a 3-cylinder.